Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me here today on, of course, once again, Ne0 Gets to Know. I'm joined by one of the UK's biggest prodigies, I'd say, coming through. I'm joined by the one and only Swaggy. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Well, I mean, I'm doing all right, to be fair. Got COVID, but we're here, and that's what matters, right? We finally managed to
Yeah.
find a date as well. I think this is the biggest thing. It was just struggling to find a date to put this together, but
I think it took us like 3 weeks of delaying to get here.
exactly, but we finally made it, and that's what's all that matters. So we'll get straight underway, right? I mean, it's a standard question that everyone gets asked when you're kind of being interviewed, but how did you get into CS:GO, right? How did you go from just a guy from the UK to getting into one of the biggest up and comers in CS:GO?
Um, the reason I got the game is because my brother played Source semi-professionally, so I
Okay.
started playing Source a lot, and then my mate just went, "Let's go buy Go," and I went, "Okay," and then the rest is history.
And was that from the get go, like go like really early on when it came out, like 2013,
Uh,
2014?
Must have been 2014 I started playing.
So you were in early doors then, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Like, I think I
you're,
was 12 when I picked
I
it
was
up.
gonna say,
Yeah,
because you're like a year or two younger than me, so you used to be really young getting into that.
yeah,
Damn. So from 12, and then you essentially that was it, right? You just playing with your friends, and it went from kind
yeah.
of
And then I
being.
started playing competitively at 14, I think.
And
Yeah.
that was in the UK scene then, right?
Yeah, that's when I went to my first LAN event and stuff like that. So yeah.
Or was that with like Epic LAN, like those kind of LAN
Yeah,
events?
yeah, it's an Epic LAN. That's Epic
14.
17.
Wow. Okay, 14. That's a really early age. But to be fair, that's like kind of the transition we're seeing now. Is a lot of these young players coming through. I mean, Manesi is a kind of a prime example of it now. I mean, some just cracked
Yeah,
15-year-old kid or 16-year-old kid who's just stomping. So I guess it is getting in early. That kind of gives you that sort of advantage, right?
yeah, exactly. It's like I mean, I always had that thing where I always played one game mostly, so
Mhm.
I did the same with Go and just stuck with it, and then eventually got to a point where I could compete. So
There we go. Can't complain. So coming into CS:GO, you obviously mentioned that your brother had Source, and there was kind of a sort of influence there. But was there any kind of pro players coming in that you sort of looked up to? I mean, very old names. If people look at the old NIP 870 roster, those kind of people. Anyone you looked up to?
the first roster that I actually took like a proper interest in was the old Hellraisers lineup, where
Which
it
one
was
was
like
that?
Kucha, Dozier,
Oh,
Angel,
okay, yeah.
Mo, Adren, like this really old. Like this is the team that I like started watching and like really took like
Yeah.
a lot of inspiration from, I guess. So I
Was there
guess
any?
if anyone, it's them.
Yeah, and anyone in particular that you was there anyone that you tried to kind of model your playstyle after? Maybe out of that
Uh,
roster.
Not really. I always wanted to have my own like type of play style, and I never really liked copying too much of other people. I'd take
Yeah.
little bits, but never like huge amounts.
I think it's a smart way to do it, right? Because you can kind of adapt it to however you naturally play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, kind of obviously you mentioned coming through in terms of you like that Hellraisers roster. Was there any kind of influential players you played with in the UK scene coming in that you think kind of really helped kind of progress your career?
There is some names, but I mean, there's a very old player who really gave me a lot of boost in the right, more maturity ways called
Hmm.
Ziggy. Some
Okay,
people will
yeah.
know him. I don't know if many will, but
Hmm.
some people will. And obviously, a big influence on my career is Toten G,
The man, the myth.
the man, the myth, the
Yeah,
legend. He can't go unspoken of. But yeah, he's
exactly.
definitely someone who really molded me as like more as a person than a player. Like he gave
Yeah,
me like he helped me like mature a lot in game and stuff like this. So
yeah.
definitely those two definitely like pushed me forward.
I sort of expected Toten G to come in early doors, right? I mean, it's play we both know. I go to university with him. Of course, you played with him for such a long part of your career. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll know a lot better than I do in terms of him as a player. But I mean, I think a lot of people do sleep on how actually good he was as a player. Ridiculously smart when it comes to CS:GO. I mean, you know the best, right?
Yeah, it was more just like his presence on the team as well. He brought like like he made people around him a lot more calm and like a lot more
Mhm.
level-headed, and he brought up like he made players shine like around him, which was like a good reason to play with him.
Yeah. And I think when we started when we first kind of met really early on, it's like he just joined university and you were a year below, but you were in that same roster together at the same time as like Wind and Rain, I think I was right.
Probably, yeah. I
One
mean, we
of
played in we played in a lot of rosters together, so.
Yeah. I coming through. You mentioned he was so influential. Was it kind of in a terms of you mentioned his presence, but playstyle wise, he IGLs quite a lot. Do you think you learn a lot from him in that kind of sense?
To an extent, but I think like the way like he really affected my career is just he helped like build me like maturity wise as as a person
Yeah.
and that's like when I was younger, like that's what I needed from like someone. I needed kind of like a role model almost,
Mhm.
and that's what he was for me. So
Yeah.
like he gave me a lot of help in that aspect.
Because sometimes, like, I think if you're a young player, is obviously very talented, you can kind of be led down this path of being very, very cocky and very sort of, the wrong path, let's say. So in that sense, he kind of kept you level-headed, right, and kept you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
getting the right steps to actually building yourself as a professional player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the kind of a standing question that a lot of people kind of do enjoy to find out is, how did you go from just being a player who kind of just played, your ESEA and Face It pugs, right? Just kind of standardly pugging out, to then go into that sort of team CS. How did that transition come about?
I mean, I always was like trying to play like in and around teams because obviously with my brother playing like Source competitively, it's like that's kind of like what I knew.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to like push myself into like teams and stuff like this, but I was always like making contacts and just like trying to play with players. So it was kind of like just natural progression.
Yeah, you mentioned that you went to your first LAN when you were like 14, right? So I mean, I get that does make sense that you're essentially straight in there, and I
Yeah.
think you know probably since you've been in it such a long time. But would you agree that kind of that playing in that team CS, no matter what the team is better for your progression rather than just pugging out all the time?
Yes and no.
Okay,
So it depends how you do the pugs. Like now, like there's a massive way to get into teams through like FBL and FBLC, which
true,
I don't necessarily agree with, but
sure.
it's like a natural progression now.
Hmm.
So I guess that it depends like how you want to focus your time and stuff like this. Like so if you can like get into FBL, then you can focus on that like
Yeah.
completely fine, and you're easily will get signed for a team eventually.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I think like focusing on Team CS is just gonna be naturally better for you if you like, because I mean getting into FBLC for example, it's like a massive lottery.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how good you are, it's still a lottery, the qualifier.
Do you ever see yourself doing something like that, kind of grinding for that FBLC qualifier and then trying to grind for FBLC? Would you ever see yourself doing that?
Uh, it's just not worth my time. If I get
Yeah.
an invite, if I get an invite, I might play FBLC. If I don't, I probably won't.
Yeah, so you wouldn't grind because you can get it through a kind of a multitude of different factors. You wouldn't
Yeah.
grind through leagues to get it. You if you got the invite, you take it, but you wouldn't grind for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you think that's probably, if you were kind of an up and coming UK player, right, who kind of wants to kind of put the effort in, would you kind of say to do kind of what you're doing, focus more on the team side rather than grinding for FBLC, which does seem like it's a bit of a common thing that people want to do?
Again, it depends. Like if it's like some young kid who's like really really talented, like go
Hmm.
get FBLC, and then you'll get noticed like by European teams a lot quicker.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're probably gonna have to just grind the system, and that's
Yeah.
the reality.
And you see a lot of those guys who are playing like 10, 11, 12 pugs a day. Like, surely that's just not healthy at all, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the
you
graft you
need a
have to
good
put in.
balance in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's the kind of where the Team CS comes in, because you have a regimented schedule. With FBLC, it's just game all day kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
can see that kind of where that balance would sort of be thrown off if you're in that FBLC grind. So how tough was the transition? I guess you said, you mentioned you were in a team really, really early doors, but how tough was that transition from kind of just playing, your regular pugs, your faces, ESEAs to Team CS? Because, obviously in Team CS you have your roles, you have to play for the team. While in a pug you can kind of just go and frag. So how tough was that transition?
I mean, when you're like young and like just like in your first team, like you don't really know what's going on, to be honest. It still is just a
True.
pug. Like,
Yeah.
so it's not until you get into like a team where like someone's kind of like setting it up and like you kind
Mhm.
of understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Like for me, like that was when after my first event, I started playing with Adam 930 actually.
Yeah, fair. A big name, to be
Um,
fair.
yeah, so like he like noticed me after my first event, and then that's kind of like when it was like the first transition into like a real team, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
And then it was kind of like setting up stuff around then, and then like I'd say after a few months I met Toten G, and then we kind of stuck together for 2 years. So it's like
Yeah.
after that point it was kind of like just easy because I kind of knew what was going on. I knew like how things were set.
Yeah.
But then like when you play with like different callers like from different countries, everyone has different expectations. They set up things differently. So it's like you kind of like need to get used to like the individuals in your team and like how the system actually is gonna work. So it can take like a couple of weeks, a month to get used to that before you can like start feel comfortable in it, for example.
That makes sense, right? And of course, like, obviously, different kind of callers, you said, have different styles. Do you think that definitely also kind of changes sort of regionally? UK callers compared to some of the EU ones that you've played with?
I think the main difference is how much an EU caller expects from his team and how
Okay.
much he like how he sets up the team. So like
Mhm.
a UK caller might necessarily not be bad at calling, but he's bad at being a leader.
Okay, sure. And then,
Like
so
so
that's
yeah.
where the EU come in. They're very good at being a leader, and they, as you mentioned, they expect a lot. So, do they? Is it very info heavy in the UK, in the EU sides? So, they tell
It's
you a lot to
not
do.
necessarily in game. I mean that. I mean
Mhm.
like outside the game, like they want
Right.
you to
Okay.
like playing more. They like they're gonna be giving you homework. They're gonna be doing stuff like this.
Okay. Okay. So EU's kind of where you say for you, it's a bit more of a step up if you're playing with EU callers compared to the UK side.
Yeah, I think they just. I mean, you got like a couple exceptions, but it's just genuinely just better, and
Yeah.
there's more pool out there.
Yeah, exactly, and very kind of grind heavy, which is why you do see the kind of EU scene really pushing away from the UK, and they kind of had that big step away now. So, how has your sort of experience on previous teams? You already sort of spoke about Wind and Rain. How has that helped you kind of lead to where you are currently in your career?
I think like the best way to put it is like you kind of like learn from the mistakes you make in these teams.
Hmm.
So it's like whether it's like in game or like just like genuinely like speaking in the team. So I think like my experiences around the teams has allowed me to like make better decisions like one in a different team or like joining a different team for
Sure.
example. So I think it's just like you just need to like kind of like learn from what went wrong and
Hmm.
like how it went wrong and like understand it and then just use it to like just make better decisions really. Yeah.
Is there any sort of previous mistakes that you can kind of bring to mind that you really did learn a lot from, and have now, of course, like you've kind of grown as a character because of?
Yeah, I in that Wind and Rain lineup that
Yeah.
eventually been Chet's, I was a bit of a diva, I can't lie.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I kind of tuned that down a little bit. So
That's a good thing. It's maturity, though, isn't it? You were still so
yeah,
young, right? I mean, like, in that roster, you must have been what, 16 roughly?
I no, I was 18,
18.
and
Okay, right, yeah.
yeah,
So even still, I mean, you're still so young. You've just turned like officially an adult, right? So I guess it is just a learning curve.
yeah. So like I was a bit of a diva, so I completely tuned that down, and it's like now it's like people look at me as like the lead of teams and stuff like this. So it's
There we go.
yeah,
It's all about that sort of that maturity, as we sort of
yeah.
spoke about. In your opinion, we've kind of briefly touched on the sort of the IGL side of things, but in your opinion, what do you think is kind of the things that are holding the sort of UK scene back? You've played now with both UK teams and EU rosters. What do you think are the things that hold the scene back, and the reasons why it doesn't really seem to get anywhere aside from maybe Endpoint?
The fact that we speak English.
Really? Okay.
I think that is the major factor. So obviously you got like another factor is in like a lot of our veterans left to like say at the end of Source, a lot of our veterans
Mhm.
just quit the game and like
Yeah.
didn't bring over and stuff like this. And like it's happened again with Valorant. Like a lot of our veteran players just left to play Valorant.
Yeah.
But I think like the fact that we speak English holds us back
How come?
because when Endpoint need a new fifth, they
Mhm.
don't go looking at the UK pool. They didn't come to me. They didn't go to, I don't know, like
Ah.
Ping. They didn't. They go
Yeah.
to some random European guy or well, Middle Eastern whatever.
Yeah.
They go to some random guy, and because they speak English, like they can play fine.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the Danish team, like look at Astralis, like
Yeah.
they knew Orpa. They don't go looking for Kenny S. They go and sign some Danish guy who speaks Danish.
Yeah.
It's like that like is a massive factor because like you're not competing with other UK players, you're competing with everyone
Right.
in Europe.
Okay. So there's such a big kind of a pool of people you have to compete with, not just your
Yeah.
region. Right. Okay, that makes sense. And then I guess aside from that, in terms of obviously that's such a big factor because you're not only competing with yourself, you compete essentially with the rest of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the most spoken language in the world aside from I think Mandarin. Maybe in terms of a person, I think more people speak Mandarin. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's like it's you compete with the entire continent and further. But aside
Yeah.
from that, in terms of, I know a lot of people talk about, in the UK scene, it's very sort of, there's definitely a long time people spoke about people at the top were very much kind of, it's like nepotism. They kept it between themselves and didn't really allow the kind of prospect talents to come through. I think that's something that you sort of have experienced in your past. Do you think that's another big factor?
So I've played in a lot of scenes now.
Hmm.
Like I played all over Europe,
Yeah.
and I can say it's the same everywhere.
Oh, okay. Right. Sure.
So it's not a thing that's due to the UK, but when you look at these other teams,
Hmm.
it's like when Double Pony had to take a player instead of MBK, they
Hmm.
had to take someone who spoke French.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's the thing that you're looking at. It's like,
Yeah.
and they almost are forced to give players these chances
Hmm.
because they're speaking their like just because of their national language.
Yeah.
While if they were speaking English, I guarantee they wouldn't have took someone like Exercise, right? They'd have probably took another veteran player
Yeah.
or another experienced player.
Oh, okay, sure, that makes sense. So it is one of those things that once you break into that sort of top kind of epsilon kind of echelon thing, you stay there, right? It's like people kind of give opportunities around that kind of top area.
Well, yeah, it's who you know. It's like if you got friends in that area, you're gonna be getting offers from stuff like this.
Yeah, that makes sense because I think a lot of people spoke about the UK scene having that problem, especially kind of. I definitely like 2-3 years ago that'd been a big problem in the UK scene with like the top offers. But if it's everywhere else, then I guess it doesn't really hold the UK scene back essentially.
Yeah, I think it's just the thing in like it's not even necessarily a CS thing. It's
Yeah,
just like it's just life.
yeah,
Like if you know someone and you're friends with them, they're more likely to approach you than some random guy.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, yeah. And I think the last thing in terms of the UK scene, which is something that we're known for, slightly proudly at times, but toxicity. Do you think that is something that does plague the scene a little bit?
I mean, it's everywhere again. It's
Hmm.
like the players who are serious and like are trying to get there, they'll sort themselves out.
Yeah.
But again, like the thing is with the UK in general is we are so young compared to most other national scenes.
Right. Okay.
The
Sure.
top the top players in the UK, like in the UK teams, you're looking at like the mostly between 18 and 20.
Hmm. Sure.
So like these are young players still, and like and you've also got like that role model thing where it's like players don't have like all these veterans left, right? So
Yeah.
like they're not like looking up to these players. But again, I think like this toxicity thing, it's like I wouldn't say the UK is necessarily bad for it, but I wouldn't say obviously the perfect. But it's again, it's something that plagues most
Everything.
scenes. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah. I mean, you
yeah,
hear about it everywhere, right? I mean, even if you look right to the top, I mean, Simple is literally like part and parcel of him as a character. He was known for being toxic for so long. So I guess it's another thing that isn't really just UK dominant, even though we are slightly known for it at times.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess on another sort of event, talking about you kind of personally, what is going on recently with you? I know we last time we spoke a while ago, you were kind of just left the roster and now sort of, if I'm right in saying, playing under the Royals banner recently. I mean, what is currently going on?
I mean, Royal is just my mixed name. Well, it's Cape Izzers, but yeah, I stole
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
And I mean, well, I'm like in the middle of making a roster, but it's
Mhm.
like there's a few complications, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on. But
Sure.
the like we're in the middle of doing something.
Is can you get any information on that roster? Any players aside from yourselves, of course?
I mean, the only player I can realistically confirm is Rocking. So
Okay, right. A player who's been around for a while, so again,
yeah.
a bit of experience there. Fair. And then is the plan to kind of is it to stay UK or go EU? What's the
No,
kind of
no,
plan?
if fully EU, I'll be the only UK player on the roster.
Okay, right, sure. Okay, so is that kind of going forward? Is that what you're looking for? To more to kind of branch out into EU?
I mean, not really. It's not like that's not like why I like turn around and look at. If like the opportunity is right and I think I believe in the project, like I'm not gonna say no. Like
Mhm.
obviously if like endpoint comes knocking, it's like I'm not gonna say no.
Yeah,
Um, but for example, like I mean, in this situation, I think best for my career, like is like exploring an international offer.
sure. And in that sense, building your own roster for the international kind of games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess in a sort of side note, what happened with the likes of Chet's? What happened with that roster?
I mean, for me, it wasn't improving at the pace that I wanted it to improve at, and
Sure.
I kind of lost hope in the roster, or like lost belief.
Hmm.
So for me, like it wasn't working how I wanted it to, so I just decided I was gonna leave when after the period of games that we were playing.
Sure, that makes sense. And I guess in talking about chess because we saw you compete in tournaments, like Pinnacle, right, where you compete with
Yeah, yeah.
big name teams in that EU scene. How good was that in terms of progression as a team, or did that actually because you played so many games in such a short amount of time, did that slightly hinder the sort of practice?
Not necessarily. We were practicing full-time hours more or less, but
Hmm.
it wasn't necessarily the fact that we were playing officials. It's more like I said, like the improvement just wasn't there.
Yeah,
I just don't think the mix of players was correct, so something had to change, and I personally chose myself that I wanted to move away from and explore other options.
yeah, and that makes complete sense. You see that definitely from time to time. So aside from that, moving kind of forward in terms of not even the UK scene, but in general, how good does it kind of feel to have lands finally starting to come back?
I mean, hopefully I can finally attend an international LAN.
Yeah.
It's been too long. But no, I'm gonna go to a 2v2 event next week in Leeds actually, so
Okay. And
yeah.
is there any sort of plans to any international kind of lands that you're looking towards?
I mean, it just see what comes. Like once I have a roster and everything, it's like I need to actually have like this team sorted before obviously we go like official and stuff like this, and then we'll see what happens.
Sure. Yeah, that's spot on. And I guess lastly, in terms of just on this kind of CS:GO section, what are your sort of personal goals? I mean, I've spoken with a few players, and people look to be the top in their scene, or within that kind of big bracket of you mentioned about being a role model. What is kind of your personal goals? People talk about top 30, HLTV, that kind of thing. What for you?
I mean, I think I don't really have like a big goal. I have small goals.
Okay.
So like the next one that I would like to hit in my career is top 50.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I've been top 80, now I want to be top 50, then top 30, then you slowly progress.
Yes,
Like
yeah,
you want to have like the small goals, so when you hit them, like you get more motivation. Like, I think like just
sure.
like I think a lot of people set like goals like, oh, I want to win a major, but it's like, how are you gonna get there?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's the smaller goals that kind of will finally lead to that kind of big overall goal. You mentioned like top 50, right? So with the
Yeah.
team coming forward, finally if you find the right team, that's the sort of first step.
Yeah, it's like you gotta find like the right individuals to put yourself around with the correct mentality. Like I think the hardest thing to do in Counter Strike is finding 5 players with the right mentality.
Yeah, that kind of all on the same sort of level as well, right?
Yeah,
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 exactly that. Well, I mean, that is the kind of the conclusion of the CS:GO section. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about sort of you personally, right? So
okay.
outside of esports, let's take a step away from. Actually, let's take a step away from CS:GO. What are your kind of hobbies and interests? I know you're very into like your football. You're a Newcastle fan, am I right in
I
saying?
am I am unfortunately a Newcastle fan.
Not the greatest result recently.
Uh, Ever.
Yeah, oh yeah. So, is that one of your big hobbies?
I mean, yeah, I love football. Like I'll attend like Newcastle games when I can, and I'll watch every game. Like so, I'm a big fan of Newcastle. Unfortunately, like I said,
Putting yourself through a bit of torture there, having to watch every game.
yeah, helps with the mentality,
Yeah, exactly that.
resilience.
And am I right? So you grew up in the area, right, in around Newcastle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I grew up around Newcastle. Yeah.
yeah. So what was it like growing up there?
I mean, I grew up in kind of like the suburbs, so
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't the best area, but it wasn't like poor or anything. So
Yeah,
I was like, I think I didn't struggle or anything. So it's like
mhm.
I went to a decent school, so
Yeah,
it was just like all right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And aside from sort of the schooling side, you definitely watch football. Did you ever play in any football growing up?
Yeah, I played a lot of football growing up.
What position?
I played centre back, and then I
Nice.
got moved up to CDM. So
Oh, fair. I mean, that's a big role to fill. So fair play. So, what does a sort of daily routine look like for you? Like, can I give you a daily routine which involves like an official game and then one which doesn't?
I mean, I kind of approach it the same. So it's like I'll wake up, I'll walk my dog,
Hmm.
I'll get back, I'll make food, and then I'll come and I'll like I don't really warm up much for games, so I kind of like get myself more like mentally ready.
Sure.
So I'll like get in the zone to play. Like we'll probably have like a warm up like scrim or something for before the official, then
Sure.
we'll play it. Yeah, and like but the thing is like even if I didn't have an official on the same day, I'd still be like playing like other things like just like
Right. Yeah.
keeping the hours up, like just keeping myself like focused, like stuff like this.
What does a warm up routine look like for you normally?
I get on and I just like I need to figure out, is that am I alright, or
Okay.
am I
Yeah.
completely dog shit?
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm just not feeling at all, like I can't hold my mouse properly, I'll
Yeah.
go in like deathmatch for maybe 30 minutes, like till I'm
Sure.
feeling crisp.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
like I'll like if I'm just getting in there, getting aimbots, and it's like I'm like do like 2 minutes, like I'm feeling it, so I'll just go straight in. It's like
Fair. So
yeah.
it's very dependent basically on how you wake up and feel then.
Yeah, it's just like how I'm feeling. It's like,
Yeah.
am I feeling all right? Then I'll just continue. If I'm not, then I'll fix
Then
it.
yeah, okay, that makes sense because I think a lot of people have like very regimented, but yours sort of makes sense. There's no point putting an hour DM in if you're feeling crisp already. It's just a waste of
Yeah,
time,
exactly.
and you burn out as well, which I think is a big factor that a lot of people experience. Is this something that you've ever experienced, like just being burnt out from CS?
Not necessarily from CS, like the game.
Mm.
I've been burnt out from the people in the game.
Right. Okay. And is that UK scene itself?
It's just not necessarily the UK. It's just people in
It's in
general.
general.
It's like
Yeah.
sometimes like the people like you have to like work with, which is like you
Just
just don't
coming
want
off
to do
of
it anymore.
yeah, just
Yeah.
long. And I guess that's why we do see quite a few changes coming forward, just because if it's not working, you just got to pull yourself away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of that balance, really. We kind of already sort of mentioned that. So, and obviously, I know you're at university, and I know you're, of course, kind of in the process of getting a degree. But if you were
Yeah.
to sort of step away from CS kind of full time, what would be something that you'd fall back on?
It's gonna sound like massive data analyzing.
Okay, sure. So, is that something you do at university then?
Yeah, I'm studying computer science, and
Okay,
that's
right.
what I'm going to specialize in this year. Well, maybe next year if I defer, which I still might.
Sure. So, if the plan, right, I guess, of course, you're going into it would be your final year of
Yeah.
university. If university finishes, is the plan to carry on trying to kind of pursue that sort of dream of being pro in CS, or is it to sort of look towards doing data analysis as well as kind of play CS?
It depends on the opportunity that's presented for me.
Sure.
So I think by the time I finish university, if there's no like massive opportunity where I can be sustained, I would probably just call it.
Sure. And then that would be like just it, right? No, no,
Yeah.
really. Yeah. Fair enough. It's a tough decision to make. And I guess that's what you said. You meant talking about deferring, right? Is deferring to kind of look to try and really grind out this year of
Well,
CS.
on currently, I mean, without leaking much, I have an offer which would be sustainable for the next 6 months.
Okay. Yeah.
So if the offer goes through, I would defer for the next year.
And then it would be to kind of graft out with this offer for the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I mean, best of luck with that if it goes through, because that sounds like a huge kind of opportunity for yourself.
Yeah.
So, of course, we've kind of already spoke brief about your personal life, but we're going to kind of move into the sort of the Twitter and Reddit questions, because this is where there's quite a few of these, so feel free to rapid fire them, or go as long as you want.
All right.
So, an easy one. What are your thoughts on Valorant?
Boring game.
Boring game. No interest in it at all.
Too slow, very noob friendly.
Very noob friendly. So I guess that kind of very easily asks my second question. You've never been tempted to move across then?
Haven't played a single minute of it.
Not at all. Not even played it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Haven't even installed it.
So what do you think of those who sort of quit CS to kind of go to Valorant?
I mean, I think most of them don't enjoy the game. I think they're doing it for a paycheck. But the
Yeah.
ones who enjoy the game, it's fair enough. But I think a lot of them just, they see the money and they go and play for it.
That's what I think is a bit of a common thing that a lot of people within CS seem to assume, that actually the main reason people go is more for the money, not actually for the game itself.
I mean, for most of the CS players, it is true.
Definitely, yeah.
So,
I'd have to agree. I think that CS itself it's never going to be a CS killer, even though it came in as a CS killer. There's no way.
Yeah. The only game it killed was Overwatch.
Yeah, and that was already in the bin as it was coming
Yeah.
in anyway. So who is the best player you ever played with, and the best player you've ever played against? I can sort of probably guess against.
So, like, do you want me to say with in the same like what they became, or like what they were, or like at that time?
Give me both, because I feel like you
Okay,
have some
so-
stories.
Best player I've ever played with, Get Right.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
I
that sort
played
of
it.
makes sense.
I played a couple qualifiers with Get Right.
Yeah, I
so,
remember watching them. Yeah.
Played against Zywoo.
I was gonna say that's the one I had to get. So
yeah.
surely, I mean, that's just. And you played with him. I played against him. Sorry, a while ago, right? I mean, how?
Yeah,
was he,
2018.
even then, was he just as cracked as?
He had one map where it was you couldn't do anything, it'd kill you.
I mean, what is the sort of game plan for you? And that you're sort of, I guess was that playing with Totes and G back then? That was right.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So what was it? Kind of coming into that, what was it like playing against someone like that who you literally can't touch? What do you do?
The first map we just got absolutely destroyed. Like he had like a 2.5 rating. It's like you can't do anything. Then the second map we had his first red rating in like 20 maps, and we were like, what just happened? And then we beat we won the map, and it was like, what? Okay.
So what is the game plan when someone like that is just insane? Like, what do you do?
You just kind of like gotta use your util properly. Like that's the thing, is like when you play against any insane AWPer, like you've got to use that util like almost perfectly,
Right, yeah.
to like to push them off areas, to like give yourself favorable duels. But like the thing is with these players is like even when they're in unfavorable situations, they'll still kill you.
They'll find a way, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So did the opportunity to play with Get Right come about?
Complete luck. Like I was playing with a couple Swedish players, and it was literally we were looking for a player for like I can't remember, it was like some sort of GMAT qualifier.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
And like we literally like he tweeted saying he wanted to play it, and we and one of the Swedish players just replied to the tweet saying come play it first, and he went alright.
Fair enough. That's a crazy sort of happen chance to fall into.
Yeah.
And of course, you mentioned best player you've ever played with. Is there sort of any UK players the best player you've ever played with?
I'm in a team situation. I don't know. I haven't really played with too many actually.
True. Yeah.
I don't know. Like no, not really. Like I haven't really played with many players like in a team situation like that.
Mm-hmm. So, who's the worst player from Loughborough you've ever played with?
From Loughborough.
Yeah.
Totenji.
Totenji, yeah. Sucks. Totenji sucks.
Yeah.
You're a football fan, so Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo?
I'm more of a Cristiano Ronaldo guy myself.
Is it? How come?
No. I don't know. I just like his attitude, like his
graft,
work ethic
right?
is yeah.
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 I think that's a big thing. A lot of people who are like kind of more geared towards Ronaldo is that graft, that effort he puts
Yeah.
in, which is kind of undeniable. I mean, the guy's like 36 and he's got the body age of a 21-year-old. So I mean,
Yeah.
credit where credit's due. Do you plan on breaking any more trophies? Asks Carl Cody Casts.
If the opportunity arises, yes.
And which trophy is he alluding to there?
So when I won the Grosvenor
Yeah.
finals, I did a trophy lift and the top of the trophy fell off.
Brilliant. Perfect. Oh, was it broken already, or did it just like, did you actually
Well,
break it?
I didn't realize it was because like normally they're taped down
Oh, yeah, yeah.
or like twist on, and they weren't, and I didn't realize it, so I
So you
lifted
lift.
it and it fell off. Yeah.
You hate to see it. As your lift as well. In your moment of
Yeah.
celebration, the
Yeah. It
embarrassment.
was all on stream as well.
Oh, brutal. Um, Someone asks, what do you think of this lineup? Jazar, Swaggy, Connor, Gemzilla, Glaved, and Keto as the coach.
Awful.
Awful. Yeah, not a fan.
Not a fan. I don't think I'd join that lineup.
How many rosters have you been on?
Uh, I don't know. Check my Wikipedia. It's probably more accurate than my memory.
But a lot, right? I mean, it's quite
I
a
mean,
few.
like, yeah, probably like 10 or 11, something like that.
Which is the one you have the kind of the best the best time with, the one you enjoyed the most?
Um, what I enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
Probably the Royals lineup with me, Fuzi, Parman, Sterzig, and Shanky.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
lot of fun to play in that lineup.
Yeah, and how come that one is like no longer a thing?
We didn't find any organization offers, and I mean, Fuzi got offered NIP, and
Yeah.
then you got Chanky went to Game Agents, Sterzig got an offer from EC Club Bruges. Like,
When they
is
come
what it is.
around, you just got to do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, as well, on a sort of side note, you've played with someone like Fuzi. How good does he to see someone that you know now making it to that tier 1
Well,
scene?
yeah, Fuzi's someone I've been good friends with for years now. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I played a Fuzi for a year and a half in the team.
Hmm. And how good does it
Like,
kind of feel to see him now at that kind of tier 1? But you must be kind of
yeah, it's
proud.
good. Yeah, I mean, he's good. I'm still good friends with him, so I still talk to him regularly.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's good to see like a friend succeed.
exactly that. Uh, Outside of Endpoint, which of course is the standard one, which sort of team do you see as being the best team in the UK?
Um, I think the ITB team's got to be the best, like
Yeah.
on paper at least.
Hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, they seem like the next kind of big thing. Do you think they're better than the Endpoint Academy side?
I mean, I don't think the Empire Academy team are. I don't think they're like too good. I think like they can like have some potential, but I wouldn't say like they're necessarily really good. Especially like they've just made a change as well with the Wolfie situation.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a few rosters that are better than the Endpoint Academy team.
Were you never tempted by anything like that? You know, kind of
No,
the Academy? No, nothing.
it's no.
Even if it was a more stable sort of time, would you prefer to kind of look for your own project than join that kind of academy?
I wouldn't want to join that academy. No, I didn't like how they did it either. I don't think they. I think the whole process that they did wasn't ideal for finding a
The best players,
team.
right?
Not necessarily best players, but like the best team. Like I think like it was more of a content thing, which is something like
I
I
think a
wouldn't
lot of
really
people
want to.
agree.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I don't want to focus my career on content. I want to be the best in the best team I can be in. So I
So
don't think that's something that would benefit me.
yeah, agreed. If it was something that, if you were, let's say, looking for, the best kind of UK academy, how would you have done it differently?
Um, I mean, I think it's hard with the UK pool, and
Mhm.
if you're looking at academy player, you kind of want to look at younger players, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think like I'd more look for players with the correct attitude and like
Sure.
some like like players who are talented, and then you want to teach them basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you sort of be that sort of role model as you spoke
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Is uh is there any sort of players that are coming through the UK scene that you see as being really talented, any kind of potential?
I mean, I think Mazza is incredible,
Yeah.
but the guy is an idiot. He needs to sort his arm out and actually just get in a team and just like play. Like
Yeah.
he's really inconsistent with that. And I think another player who's really talented who just needs to learn is Kriths.
Chris. Okay. So what does Chris need to do to kind of make that next steps?
Well, he needs like a stable team where he like just learn off people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Funny enough, you say that as well, because Mazza asked, "Do you like him?"
No, he's a monk.
I think he was expecting that answer. Um, which Star Wars film is the best?
I think it's got to be Revenge of the Sith.
It's a rogue one. How come?
I think the lightsaber fights in that one are just the best choreographed through the entire series. So
Yeah, fair enough. I can give you that one. Who is your favorite admin and caster?
admin and caster.
Or admin and then favorite caster, like two separate.
Okay, so favorite caster. If I don't say Crema, he'll hurt me, so I've got to say Crema.
Yeah.
And then admin, yeah, it's two. One is Betrayed Counter-Strike and went to Valorant, which is Maru, and the other
Mario
one
man.
is Benz. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually fun enough. It was Benz and Kremer who asked both of those questions.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
You passed the test. Who is your favorite team manager?
My team manager. I mean, Spiral hurt me if I don't say him. So.
There we go.
I'm just getting the threats here.
Yeah, I will put exactly that. Goblin Hunter asks you to.
He is my roommate from last year.
He asks you to tidy your room.
Yeah, my room's actually tidy currently, so.
Yeah, so I can see probably why he asked that then. Was it messy last year then?
Yeah, it was quite bad, I can't
lie. Who is your favorite fan?
My favorite fan?
Yeah.
I'm guessing Pavlovsky asked this.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Pavlovsky is my super fan, so.
We love to see it. We love a super fan. How good does it feel having people kind of like sort of recognize you and sort of be your fan, like kind of support you in that sense?
It's kind of surreal sometimes because it's like you don't really expect it, and it's like it's kind of like it's almost like a reality check. It's like, oh, people actually like follow my career and like watch my games just because of me. It's kind of like nice, but it's also weird at the same time.
Have you ever been anywhere and like kind of been recognized?
Once.
Where was that?
What? I was at the Birmingham New Street train station. I was in one of the I just got back from insomnia and I was wearing my jersey, and I was getting food somewhere while I was waiting for my train, and the barista recognized me and asked me, "It's like, oh wait, you're Swaggy, you play for this team?" I was like,
No way. That must have been surreal as well.
It's like, yeah, okay, I'll have my food and leave, please.
That must have been really odd, to be fair.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, next one is, have you ever considered working on a project with the likes of Smooya?
I mean, I'm friends with Owen, and I'd play with Owen. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's definitely got a bad like reputation for where he is, like as a person now. I think he's definitely came a long way since like those accusations happened.
Yeah.
So I think I would definitely play with Owen. I think he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, kind of look into, if you were going to look to work with kind of Owen, right, would it be something that you would definitely consider if you're building a project, or would you think you'd need an org already, kind of, a paycheck and that kind of thing?
I think it's also his own expectations. I think he'd want to play like with better players personally.
But better than yourself, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think it's something, if you kind of improved a lot as a player and really started to make your way up there, you talk about your small goals, top 50 and that kind of thing, would Denny be someone you consider to bring in?
I mean, I'd love to play for him. I mean, his stats like speak for themselves. Like,
it's insane, right?
The guy is a monster. So
yeah. And you would know kind of better than a lot of people from the kind of an outside view that he has definitely matured as a person, right? And he had this kind of toxic persona, but that's definitely not kind of with him anymore, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say he's definitely like definitely matured as a person. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, we're interested. I mean, I don't know if you'll know, but he's definitely, there's something probably in the works coming forward. Now he's dropped from, well, he's no longer with Movistar Riders. So, anything your end? He's
I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
No one does. I think it's the big thing is trying to find where he's going next. What was your most awkward handshake, and why was it at Epic 29 with Doodle?
I remember I first met him, and the guy is quite like a timid guy.
Yeah.
So I went to give him a handshake, and he just didn't know what to do.
I was at Epic 29.
Yeah.
Well, and he just didn't know how to just shake a hand.
I think he just kind of froze a little bit.
Oh, bless him. Why do you use native sick emoji? Was after that question.
Why wouldn't I use native?
Do you prefer it to 4-3 stretch and all that? Black bars?
There's no benefit of using 4-3 or whatever. Like, there's no benefit at all.
Do you know, even at the slightly bigger hitbox, or slightly bigger kind of on your screen?
Just get good.
Yeah, fair. There we go. Anyone asking questions, get good. Can you name, obviously you've already named some, a decent sort of players coming through. up and coming teams? So we already sort of spoke about Into the Breach, but any sort of other teams that you think are decently up and coming within the UK scene?
I mean, I think Phoenix still have got a lot to prove, but I mean, I
Okay.
know they've got a couple invites to events
Hmm.
where they can show themselves.
Yeah.
I still want to see more from them, but I think LVN has got like the right mentality.
Yeah. He's a player who's been
Um,
around for a while as well, and talented as
yeah,
well.
so I think like that team, like I want to say they're still. I don't think they've proved themselves yet. I
Hmm.
still think they're up and coming in that sense. So I want to see how they perform. Like, and I think like a quite a big win
Yeah.
to make advanced. So I think they need to still prove themselves. I definitely would say they're still up and coming.
Yeah, fair enough. And I guess since you've played against Zywoo himself, a lot of people call Jamie G the English Zywoo. Do you think he's an AWPer going forward who you think has a lot of talent?
I think he's talented, but I've
Yeah.
given him a lot of I've tried to give him a lot of advice actually when I played against him.
Hmm.
But I think like if he listens to the advice and like improves his game like in his weaknesses, I think he's definitely got a lot of potential. Like the guy is like really talented.
Yeah. You see, at times he can be bit of a monster. Um, what do you think is the best way to get out of like a rut and sort of the best way to most efficiently practice? Let's say you hit a wall and things aren't going right. What's the best way for you personally to get out of that?
It's all in your head. Just like you need to be in the right mentality where you think like if you think everything's gonna be all right and everything's gonna work out, then most of the time it will. Like you
There we
just
go.
like if you think you're in a slump, you're gonna play worse because you're mentally there.
Yeah.
Like if you're mentally just like you don't care, you're confident all the time,
Hmm.
like you're gonna be fine. Like you can have a bad game, but the next game you're probably gonna be like completely different player.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, do you think in those kind of things when you are having that sort of mentally not there, do you think it is best to step away and just kind of just take a slight break?
I mean, yes and no. Like so the way I structure myself is so I'll have 1 or 2 days a week where I just won't even touch the game.
Okay, sure. I guess that's a
So
healthy thing to do. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I know a lot of players will play like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's like, yeah, okay, you have a lot of hours, you're playing a lot of Counter
Mhm.
Strike, but it's like, bro, what are you doing for your mental
I
health?
was gonna say mental
Like,
health must be in the bin doing that.
yeah, it's like I can have like 68 hours past 2 weeks and be performing at my peak. Like
Yeah,
you can have 140 and be performing like really well, but like you're not gonna be like entirely happy outside of the game.
yeah. I think that's a big thing as well when you look to like, especially a lot of these younger players, and it's actually more over towards kind of EU and CIS regions. But you see, like I know that I've already mentioned once, but Ne0, right? He's like 15 or 16, and has like
You cut out a little bit
I'm
there.
sorry, yeah, I was talking about
Yeah.
Ne0, right? He's 15 or 16, but he has what, like 16,000 hours already? I mean, like,
Yeah.
at that age, it's like surely the burnout is sort of imminent, right?
I mean, yeah, I think like you're just kind of like sacrificing too much as well.
Hmm.
It's like you need to have like a when you're doing anything like you need to have like a right balance in your
Yeah,
life,
for sure.
which is why like when we like players were going to like tier one lands and
Hmm.
they were doing 250 days a year like traveling, it's like
Yeah,
that's not healthy. You
no,
can't
not at all.
sustain that for a long period of time. And it's like why you saw players like stepping down and like not wanting to compete like at this level because like
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
situation.
It's sort of understandable, right? The burnout is definitely a big factor. I mean, we've seen it. Like, Astralis is the kind of perfect example. Those guys were burnt out after.
Yeah, they
In,
were like first in the world for 2 years straight, and they didn't want to play the game anymore.
yeah, and yeah, we don't blame him. Well,
Yeah.
if you could pick anyone, even if they're playing Valorant right now, to build your sort of dream roster, who would you build your dream roster with?
Is this? I assume this is UK players.
No, anyone in the world. If you had to build your
And yeah,
dream
in the
roster,
world.
but obviously it has to work, right? Like if they don't speak
I.
English, then they obviously wouldn't work.
I mean, IGL Carrick.
Carrigan, okay, sure. There you
Yeah, hello, welcome back. Right,
go.
so am I putting myself in this roster?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So it's you and
Okay.
four others, yeah.
IGL gotta be Carrigan.
Okay,
Um, so I'll put myself as entry.
okay, yeah. It's
Um,
bold.
yeah. Support, you gotta go Dupree.
Sure, yeah.
Um, Author,
That's a tough one.
Zywoo.
Yeah, okay.
And then like your lurk player. Who's the best beta in the world? David P. There you go.
David B.
And I probably actually say called Zero actually.
Okay, so Rogue to not go for simple. Is there any kind of reason why?
I don't think he's well. The guy is like obviously insane,
Hmm.
but the team plays up simple rather than like
It's not hard.
Zywoo. Zywoo is like a player where he can do everything, right? You,
Hmm.
you can you can set up Zywoo and he'll have 30 kills, or
Yeah.
Zywoo can support and he'll have 30 kills.
Hmm. But
So I
Simple, you
think
think the rest of the team play for Simple?
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's quite a sort of a common thing. But in the same sense, if you were in a team where that was a kind of a preset, where let's say you were in a team with Simple, right, and you played for Simple, would it be something that you think you would be happy doing, or would you not enjoy a team like that?
If he's on 35 kills and we're winning, I don't care.
Yeah, fair. I think that's probably why what a lot of the Navi people are thinking exactly that.
Yeah.
What was the single most influential piece of advice you've ever received?
Um, I think it's from Ziggy, and it
Mm.
was more just I was acting like, whereas when I was 16 and I was really mature, and he just went, if you keep acting like this, you're not gonna get anywhere in life, never mind in Counter Strike.
It's harsh, but I mean, I guess it,
Yeah,
it kind of really opens your eyes up, right?
yeah,
I mean, obviously you took it on board, but was it like in
yeah.
that moment, was it like a spur, like, oh god, like I'm doing something wrong here, basically?
It was more of like later that night when I thought about it, it's like maybe he's a bit right.
Yeah, maybe he is right. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, what has been your most embarrassing moment, kind of ever, in terms of CS:GO and esports?
Had a lot, so um, the trophy list gotta be up there.
Yeah.
Um, I know. I feel like sometimes I just like look at how I used to act, like on even like on Twitter and stuff, and it's kind of just like if I act
Yeah.
like that now, I'd be very embarrassed of myself. So
Is the kind of going back to being that sort of that diva that you mentioned?
yeah, when I was a lot younger, yeah,
Yeah. I guess like again, just maturity, right? It's just growing up. It's like, and
yeah,
thankfully you've kind of learned from it. So,
yeah.
um, who is the most underrated UK CS player right now?
Mighty Max,
Mighty Max. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
What for? What reason?
because he does a lot for that endpoint team, and I feel like he doesn't get the appreciation that he deserves.
Hmm.
I feel like from an outside perspective, a lot of people will like turn around and look at him and like they'll just think, oh yeah, this guy's like, he's having shit stats, like he's not very good, like he should be replaced or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like what he brings to that team is a lot more from like than like what you can see from the outside.
Sure, that makes sense. And our final question: what is the fastest way, in your eyes, to improve as a CS player?
Uh, you just need to play, but like you also need to be like considering your mistakes like in real time.
Hmm.
Like you should like think like when you die, like you should be like understanding like, oh, why did I die? Like what can I do better? Like here, like
Sure.
is this a situation that could be avoided in the future? Like
So learning from the mistakes, essentially, to kind of
yeah,
not repeat them in the future.
yeah.
Exactly that. Well, Swaggy, that concludes all of our questions. Thank you very much for joining me for this interview. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Aside from the internet issues, we've been all right. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Best of luck as well with the kind of new roster being built up. Hoping to see some more of it. Do you have any sort of timeline of when you expect this to kind of become a more concrete thing?
I mean, if it goes through, we hear today, and then we might be jetting off to do media stuff. So we'll
Okay,
see. We'll see.
that is crazy. Okay, well,
Yeah,
I mean, by the time this interview comes out, we might see exactly that. Hopefully, that
exactly.
is the case. So best luck, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone at home for watching as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. And well, for now, enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out. Bye.
Yeah, bye.